Dr. Brian Weiss once said, "Journey into the beautiful dream that is life. The end is only the beginning." We have with us Dr. Chandan Mishra to tell us more about life, reincarnation, and memory. Dr. Chandan Mishra has completed his PhD in civil engineering from IIT Bhubaneswar in 2023 after having obtained his BTech civil engineering from NIT Raipur and MTech civil engineering from IIT Gandhinagar. He has an experience of working in the civil engineering industry as well as in the academics. Currently, he's working as an assistant professor at KIT University, Bhubaneswar. Since childhood, he has spent a considerable amount of time traveling across the length and breadth of India. He is an avid and passionate cyclist as well as a motorcyclist with a knack for solo travels and leading riders on trips. His interests also include cooking. He has developed a deep interest in the synthesis of science and spirituality. Ancient Indian knowledge systems is a vast area of interest. He's currently exploring along with his research area of environmental geotechnology. He's also a part of Young Mind Speaks. Please welcome, with a huge round of applause, Dr. Chandan Mishra.
Good afternoon to all the participants and dignitaries present over here. This actually, to be honest, this is not my research area, but this is something that has been fascinating to me since my childhood, and then I came to know about the topics that we are going to discuss over here in the summer school. So I dove deeper into it and I found some interesting case studies and all. So I'm going to present the case study and the research being done across the globe, and one particular case that was studied in detail in India in the recent past. So let's begin with the few case studies. As you can see, there was a boy called James Leninger. Although it varied from 6 to 72 years, the median age group was around 33 years of the previous birth and death. During the previous birth, the time of death, the person was around 33 years. The average time between lives, it varied from 8 to 61. There was one case of 4 years, which they were not very sure about whether it was the original case of or not. But one case was there of 4 years, although they have recorded 8 to 61 years of difference between the previous life's time of death and the present life's time of birth. However, the median time averaged around 12 years. And the conclusions of these studies, the first conclusion was the inevitable evidence that reincarnation is there. The outcome of this study established the existence of reincarnations, and then they have proposed that there is a possibility that consciousness is present in us without the presence of a working mind or a working brain, physical brain. Without the presence or the working of a physical brain, also the consciousness can be there and it can be transferred along with the reincarnation. Like we believe in our system, in our Sanatan system, that consciousness it transfers from one body to another along with our soul. So going to the next slide. So let's concentrate on one particular case study which has been collated across the globe, whose scientific evidences could not be refuted by people in general, and which was established and publicized across many journals across the world. So this was done by Dr. Vikram Raj Singh Chauhan. He is the ex-president of and now the chairman of All India Forensic Science Association. He is basically a forensic scientist. And this is the case that I was talking about. The young boy in the arms of his father and along with the mother, the lower picture. So that boy's name is Satnam Singh. Actually, the boy's name is Taranjit Satnam Singh. That combines the name of the two births that he has taken. So his present, this is the age, this is the photo of the present birth. He was born in Ludhiana to a very poor family. His father was a very poor small scale farmer, and his birth name was Taranjit Singh. So when he reached when he reached the age of around 2 years, he started talking about how around 6 years back in the month of September, And this case is of 2002. So that boy in the year 1998, he was just 2 years old, and he started speaking of a particular month. He said, "Ki September 1992, I met an accident when I was in class 9th, and I was going to school with 30 rupees in my pocket, and few specific books also he mentioned that he was going to school with those specific books, and he was on cycle, and a motorcyclist of the name Joga Singh or something of the nearby village, in Ahilwal village, he hit him from the back. He fell down on the road. He suffered severe head injuries and bodily injuries to the spine and head. And after one day of struggling with his life, he passed on. So he passed away actually. So after struggling with after struggling for around one day, he passed away, and he remembered everything. And this didn't happen over one day, but of course, but from the age of 2 to 5 years, around 3 years, he started telling small stories. And initially, his mother and father thought that after meeting some nearby villager or some neighbors, he came to know about some stories. And then children have huge imaginations. They didn't accept that this has any remote possibility that he is talking about himself. However, when his recantation started becoming more vigorous, he started having nightmares. They consulted the nearby ojhas, tantrics, and all, and then they slowly went on to the nearby village to check what is happening to him. Is he having any problems? When he was referred to because of his work in India, Dr. Bikramjit Singh, particularly, he has his head office at Patiala, so he is well known for his interest in this field of reincarnations, and that is how they met. His parents were referred to Dr. Chauhan actually, Vikram Raj Singh Chauhan, and once they spoke to him, he started diving deeper into it. Can we, uh, sir? Can we um, go to the next point actually? Yeah. So what he did was, when the boy was 5.5 years old, Dr. Chauhan met him, and he started recording whatever he had said. And then he took the parents to the said village. In The boy was talking about a village in Jalandhar. So they took him to the said village, where they asked around, and they came to know that few years back, exactly around the same time, a young boy died while going to school due to motorcycle and cycle accident on road. And they met his parents, and when the first thing that confirmed the viability of the story of the young boy was when Dr. Chauhan asked his mother, "Okay, do you remember what he was carrying that day?" She started crying, and she took out a blood soaked 30 rupees, 10 rupee and 20 rupees. Two notes were there, blood soaked 30 rupees out of a place where she was keeping those things as a memory of a lost boy. As a mother, out of emotions, she was keeping those things as a memory of a lost boy. And she was keeping those 30 rupees, and some blood soaked notebooks and books were also kept by her, preserved by her as a memory of a lost child. So when she showed those two things, Dr. Chauhan was moved because he had already recorded the present or the expressions of the previous life, past life by the young boy. And when it matched exactly, he was moved. Yes, this is not a fake story. And that is how he started. He thought of planning his experimentation on here. So, being an forensic expert, he based his research mostly, as it is said, on optics, physiology, and psychology. So what the case was actually about, what the study is actually about, is handwriting of two persons who are not shown. Suppose I have written something, and Mr. X is asked to forge my signature. Then he has to be shown the signature so that he can practice. And if he is an expert at it, then he has to practice with at microscopic level, where he has to copy the exact strokes, the curves, the dots, and everything, so that it is an exact match. Otherwise, forensic people can catch hold of it. But if two people are not shown each other's handwriting and they are asked to copy, then, like our fingerprints, like our retina, there is 100, forensic science says is, there's 100% chance that these two will not match exactly. If they are shown also, it does not match exactly. At superficial level, we might think that we have copied someone's signature or a particular phrase written by someone. But if you dig deeper, by the forensic people, when they dive deeper into it, there are numerous. So can we go to the next point further? Yes. So as it is shown here, the strokes, the flow, the curves, the pressure, where it is lifted, where the pressure is high. Because when I write T, the exact point where I am putting the pressure, where I am lifting it, it might be different from the person. Although if you are trying to copy, it might look same, but at a microscopic level, it differs. So the lift, the spacing, everything cannot be 100% a match, especially when those two people are not shown each other's handwriting. However, this 5.5 years old boy was asked to write in two languages, English and Gurumukhi. Gurumukhi is the local language of Punjab. And although he had not studied, he was just a 5.5 years old boy, he wrote. That was first thing that was astonishing. And even though he was a child prodigy and he could read and write in two languages, when they took out the notebooks of Mr. Satnam Singh, the young boy who had died, it matched. So forensically, he proved that it was an exact match. So this is how he proved that reincarnation is there and how the memory is transferred. So let's go to the next slide. Yes, can we go back? So what I was saying is, this part, although we might assume that he was a child prodigy, but because he belonged to a very poor family, neither he ever went to school, nor his father was planning to send his child to school. So he had never learned English or Gurumukhi. And for a young 5.5 years old boy, the only note that Mr. Chauhan, Dr. Chauhan had made was, because of his not so developed muscular system in his arm and wrist, there was some fragility in his handwriting. Other than that, exact strokes and everything was matched, which was the exact match of the personality. Until and unless the personality or the psyche of two people is an exact match, the handwritings will never match. That is what forensic science says. So next slide, please. So there are some other modes of the other areas of study as discussed by Dr. Patra day for yesterday, like xenology, xenoglossy, which is also known as xenolalia or xenoglossia, where it is studied how a person who is not exposed to a different language is either on a receptive level or on a responsive level can communicate in those languages. As it was discussed by Dr. Patra before, that his son was also speaking in French, which he was never exposed to. Similar cases, similar kind of studies are being done. And past life regression therapy, this is another field which is not completely accepted by the present world, but yes, people are diving deep into it. They are doing their research, they're devoting their lives to it, where through in our system we call it as yoga nidra, as rightly pointed out by Sir Dave yesterday when I was talking to him. Whereas it is in the scientific language, it is called as a hypnotic trance or trance induced through hypnosis, where sometimes the subdued traumas that even in present life, sometimes if someone is exposed to a particular traumatic experience, the mind, to safeguard himself or itself, it tries to forget that traumatic experience. And although it is forgotten at a superficial level, deep subconscious level, it keeps on affecting the person's performance and his own very life throughout his own lifespan. So that is what they try to address by inducing trance. They try to extract those things and try to help those people, heal those people. This is one. So uh, this is what I got when I studied few literatures and available studies over the globe. There are many more researchers across the. There is a group which is working in Australia. However, I particularly picked up because of his voluminous work. I picked up the studies done by Dr. Stevenson and Dr. Tucker. So this is a very famous quote by Carl Sagan, the famous astronomer. He said that there are three claims in the parapsychology field, which, in my opinion, deserve serious study. With the third being that young children sometimes report details of a previous life, which upon checking out, which upon checking turn out to be accurate, and which they could not have known about in any other way than reincarnation. As I particularly chose that particular study of a young boy reporting himself to be a World War II fighter jet pilot. Then this particular quote was always interesting to me when I was a kid. I was going through in my school, actually, Carl Sagan was written, and I was going through the quotes that he had gone through, and I had found that he was a believer not only in reincarnation, but he was a believer on a higher force or a higher energy in his life. Also, he was a believer. And then when I was in BTech, I came across various forms of Bhagavad Gita, but whatever is the form doesn't matter. The simple translation means that as a person puts on new garments, similarly a soul puts on new bodies as and when it is one out of the new old ones. The next one, sir. If you want to gain real control over our destiny, you must understand reincarnation and how it works. It's that simple. Can anyone guess whose quote it is? It's a very simple quote from a book called Coming Back by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So that is the basis of this is the basis of me being interested in it, not just scientifically, but because some great people have uh, said that reincarnation is there, and not only some great people, the Lord Himself had declared in many other quotes, as in Bahunam Janmanam Ante Janaman Mam Prapadyate. It is said that after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, and all that is. Such a great soul. Such a great soul is very rare. So when we look into it, uh, I'm not trying to interpret it, but why? What I understand is that it is not possible if the soul is not retaining some memory with itself. It is not possible that the next life also it goes on and starts off, and after many births, it comes to the final realization. Because if the soul loses its memory every time it takes a new birth, now if we accept that reincarnation is established, and if we accept that what this is written is true, then if the soul is actually taking new birth and it is forgetting what happened in the past life completely, although at subconscious level, not only at the superconscious level, but also at the subconscious level, if it is not retaining any memory, then how is it possible that after many births, it suddenly comes to realization that God is the supreme? So if that is true, then soul itself must be having a retentive memory with it. And we do not need to speculate or interpret it. It is already mentioned here that Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu, it is written in Bhagavad Gita 7.4 that earth, water, fire, air, and ether, which is the gross body that the soul is taking up. Along with that, mind, intelligence, and false ego is the subtle body that a soul takes up. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. So Lord Himself is declaring it, so there is no denying it. Thank you. So, do you have anything to discuss?
It's a nice presentation. It's
Thank you, sir.
really good. In one slide, you mentioned that researchers are saying that the age difference, the difference of the different ages, 8 to 62.
Can we go back to the slide?
8 to 61.
Yeah. Is the average time between the previous life and
my question is, have you gone through any other literature survey or case studies in between these years?
As I said, there was one case where 4 years. Even in the case of Dr. Chauhan, it was 4 years.
My question is, for example, the person died on 2002 and reborn in 2009, right? The age difference is there. What happened in these years after the death and the newborn? Just a curiosity I am asking, right?
So no, actually, let me first address to his comment. Although scientifically it is not proven what happened to him, because they remember the past human form of life, but of all these studies, they have not come up and verified a particular study where the person is saying I was a dog or a cat or any other form, because it is very difficult to verify it.
Why I asked this question is, in previous days, Maharaj told it is a balancing thing, right?
Yeah.
If it is not balanced, similar to our job, our life is kept in on bench for some years. Then when the vacancy comes, it is getting filled. So, okay,
Yeah.
don't take anything negatively.
No, sir.
Just a thought process I am putting this
Sir,
question.
I am very happy that you took this up, because this was completely left out in my slides. Scientifically, as I said, it cannot be proved what happened, but scripture tells us what happens between one form of life and another. So we have to take the help of scriptures in that.
I have not listened to your whole talk, but okay, there is one question which was bothering me, that why Ian Stevenson, like people, gets the cases only from India? Is it prevalent in India? This is one thing. Now, because most of the case studies which have been published, it is from India. It is not from USA or Europe. So, is it the Indian people? Is it happening much more?
Sir, I beg to differ, sir. Actually, among the 2,500 case studies, only around 57% was the number, I think, which belonged to Asia, not just India. The rest was from across the globe.
I have not studied
Sir,
this area at all. That's why I asked.
Sir.
That most of the studies by Stevenson.
The most famous study that I have recounted here of Mr. James, born as Mr. James. So there was an interesting thing that Mr. James, when he was reborn, he used to say that I am James the Third. When he was a three-year-old boy, he drew some painting sketches of a flight, a jet flying into a mountain, and there he has signed like any artist signs. We write our name. So he used to write James and 111. In Roman number, he used to write 3. So when he was asked, why are you writing 3? He used to say that I am James the Third. So when the previous life person, James, was found out, he was actually James the Second because his father's name was James. He was James Second. So this boy used to take this body and he used to say that I am James the Third. So this was a case study from USA and many more are there. Thank you, sir. Sir.
Generally, we in Hindu means religious belief, we believe in reincarnation. So, what is the religious point of view about the other religions for reincarnation?
Sir, Islam is one religion which strictly defies that there is no reincarnation. Whatever is the judge on the judgment day after this life, on the doomsday, they will be judged according to Islam. According to Christianity, there is a difference in school of thoughts. So some of their exactly in the Bible, it is not written about reincarnation, but there are some forms who believe in it. And the third religion who defies it is Judaism.
Okay.
Judaism. So still in some form of Judaism, they believe, but the main scriptures of Judaism, they do not accept reincarnation. Other than these 3 religions, all religions in the world accept
among these 2,500 cases, are there any Muslims?
Yes, sir. There are.
There
are cases from Africa. There are cases from Middle East. So there are.
Thank you.
So as A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami once gave an example in one of his lectures, if I am in America and I'm from India, so I have a habit of spitting on the road. If I spit on the road and say that I do not believe in the governance of US government, doesn't mean that US government doesn't punish me. So the law of karma is common to everyone, whether we are born in India or not.
I'll just add to these. I have hypnotized people who don't believe in reincarnation, Muslims, Judaists, Christians, and they have successful past life. But when after coming out of trance, when they were coordinating and discussing, when they went back home, they went back again to their old belief. So people do experience past life regressions across. They have instances of experiences of life between lives also, meeting masters. And they were meeting Hindu or Sanatan masters also in their life between life experiences. So what happens across is irrespective of culture or faith in the state of trance. So when you experience that, but as soon as they're coming out of consciousness, when they're discussing and when they're shown or heard the tapes, they come back to their old current belief system.
Thank you, sir. Your insight is actually valuable. I had cut it when she was asking you to present something. When you spoke of this, I remember another particular, I forgot the surgeon's name. There was a neurosurgeon and he has written a book. I had read it around 7-8 years back. He had written a book about the experiences he has had in the OT, during operations, when a person is brain dead. And when he comes out of the brain surgery, how sometimes he remembers how the surgery was done, although he has not seen the tape or anything. So I forgot the book. If anyone remembers, then they can share the book's name so that others can. Not reincarnation, about sir as.
Those are ND, near-death experiences, similar to the LBL, life between life experiences, but they are not past life.
In hypnosis, what I wanted to say, in hypnosis, we go for induced trance, and they are kind of a medical state of same trance because we are brain dead, near-death experiences.